the sanctity of sport, right? I do believe there is a sanctity that is involved in sport, and there's lots of commonalities with religion. And for those of you who are here for sociology, I would like to talk about some more of the social dimensions and even social justice, right? For those who have a very devout religious belief, many faiths have an area of social justice that is accompanying that belief. So we'll talk about that as well. And then we'll open it up for discussion and questions too. So first, I'd like us to start the Bible, the book of Genesis, Genesis chapter 32. There's an encounter with Jacob and an angel. Right? And this encounter requires both bodily dexterity and mental agility. Wrestling will engage Jacob's entire being. And I remember when I first read this in this commentary, this is from Leon Kass in The Beginning of Wisdom. If you would like to read more about Genesis especially, really talk about this, but how this connects to me, and really the topic that I'd like to explore most deeply in this is, can sport bring us to a higher state of awareness? We see that in this struggle, Jacob is requiring both bodily dexterity and mental agility. Wrestling will engage his being, right? And for some of you may have personal experience with this. If you're engaging with a sport, right, especially something like running or wrestling, competitive sport, basketball, anything where it requires mental agility, right, body and mind, there's a spiritual element to that. Right? Some call it being in the zone, right? Or a runner's high. Is that something you may have experienced? And we see traces of that way back in the Bible. And I would argue that especially today's most prominent athletes are very much in touch with their spiritual side, whether they may call it that or not. I think all of us who may be involved in sports on some level have a certain level of devotion to it that many would call a religious devotion. And there's been professional organizations that have structured this as well. So looking into the New Testament, we see St. Paul expressing to the early Christian community the importance of discipline that a life of faith requires. So again, St. Paul makes some analogies. Surely you know that many runners take part in a race, but only one of them wins the prize. Run then in such a way as to win the prize. We'll talk more about this later as religion as a way to win people over, right? Especially Christianity, the tenet of evangelization is very, very important. But he also talks about that every athlete in training submits to strict discipline in order to be crowned with a wreath that will not last, but we do it for the one that will last forever. That is why I run straight for the finish line. That is why I'm like a boxer who does not waste his punches. I harden my body with blows and bring it under complete control to keep myself from being disqualified after having been called others to the contest. So talking about the requirements that discipline is with sports is very similar to the discipline required in many religions. And this is expressed also through the very beginnings of the YMCA in the 1850s, where Henry Ward Beecher, the pastor at the church, says, there ought to be gymnastic grounds and good bowling alleys in connection with reading rooms in every YMCA in order to give the young men of our cities the means of physical vigor and health separate from temptations and vice. Again, that the strict discipline that may be required for sport is also discipline that is required for many religions, right? To ward off temptation and to ward off vice. And we see this in other organizations as well, in addition to the YMCA, which was the early Christian non-Catholic group. We see the YMHA and the Catholic Youth Organization. The YMHA, the Young Men and YMHWA, the Young Men and Young Women Hebrew Association, was founded right here in New York in 1874. Today, the Riverdale Y, right up the street from us, their mission statement is to enrich the lives of everyone in Riverdale with educational, recreational, cultural, and wellness programs through the lens of universally shared values central to the Jewish life. So we see today what's happening with the Y, very similar to the beginnings of the YMCA. The cultural tradition is very important, right? Being Jewish and expressing those cultural beliefs, as well as having a place of recreation and a place of community. In the 1930s in Chicago, the Catholic Youth Organization was developed, and there's a pledge of sportsmanship. And this, another book I'd like to point out, Playing with Religion and Modern Sport by William Baker is a very good resource that I've used to several of these, to research several of these organizations. And this one is powerful as well. So the CYO, is everybody here familiar with the CYO? Any basketball leagues, right? So it was developed almost 100 years ago at this point, where the pledge is, I promise upon my honor to be loyal to my God, to my country, and to my church. To be faithful and true to my obligations as a Christian, a man, and a citizen. I pledge myself to live a clean, honest, and upright life, to avoid profane, obscene, and vulgar language, and to induce others to avoid it. I bind myself to promote by word and example clean, wholesome, and manly sport. Sorry about the women in the attendance. Obviously, there's another workshop on Title IX and the inclusiveness of women. The language of this era, obviously, you may remember the 30s in America in general, it's very male dominant. But speaking of human beings in general, right? Manly sport, I will strive earnestly to be a person of whom my church and my country may be justly proud. So again, we're seeing how in order to be a person of faith, it's in order to be a person, a good citizen, and sports is a vehicle to which you can become a good person, right? So that's in a way, again, to avoid from vice, to avoid from temptation, and to really promote good health. We see that a lot today, and the history goes back quite some time. Today, we see many people who wear their faith on their sleeve, so to speak, right? People, especially the Christian faith, being evangelists, right? Talking about why their faith is important to them. You guys familiar with Tim Tebow? Tim, who knows Tim Tebow? You raise your hand. What do you know about Tim Tebow?
Plays in the minor leagues.
He plays in the minor leagues right now for the Mets, right. He was. Anything else?
Heisman Trophy winner.
Heisman Trophy winner, right. What else about Tim Tebow?
Quarterback.
Quarterback, right. Where did he play? He won a Heisman in the Gators, right? Florida.
Jets.
Played for the Jets.
Denver Broncos.
Denver Broncos, right? He won a playoff game with the Denver Broncos. And he had some miraculous run. What else about Tim Tebow do you know? Is he still playing NFL? No, right? He's playing minor league baseball. What's he known for?
He has a big charity.
Big charity, right. Would you refer to him as a man of faith?
Yes.
Why is he a man of faith? Or why is he known to be a man of faith? Yeah.
When he scored a touchdown, he used to kneel and pray.
Right, he would take knees often, right? He would always take a knee. And this picture of him in college, he has Bible verses on his eyebrow, right? He was very much of that evangelical Christian who was promoting his faith at any type of opportunity possible, right? Frank DeFord, Sports Illustrated journalist, even back in the 1970s, 1976, coined the phrase sportianity, right? Instead of Christianity, sportianity. And what does that mean? An energetic, theologically conservative movement that used sports as a means of witnessing for Christ, right? So we see Tim Tebow is, I believe in our time, one of the most prominent persons of this ilk, right? Who really had this on his sleeve. He was very much, every time he had an opportunity to talk about himself, to talk about his team, he would talk about the God he believed in. And why it's important to him that he wants everybody to know that he is known and loved and saved by Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, right? For to Tim Tebow, that was very, very important. And we see that in other athletes as well. And it's very culturally significant, I would argue, because I think part of the reason why he's not playing in the NFL could be partly because of his faith, right? Any basketball fans here may remember Chris Jackson, also known as Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. A very wonderful basketball. He played most recently, if you're familiar with the 3-on-3 tournaments, the Big Three that Ice Cube developed. He still has a shot, he still has a great game, but he, 20 years ahead of Colin Kaepernick, did not stand for the national anthem at basketball games. And he is no longer allowed in the league, and many would say, Craig Hodges, another one, a three-point shooter with Michael Jordan back in the 90s when he won those first 3 championships. He was also very devout Muslim and felt very strongly that he was not allowed in the league because of his faith, right? So there is a consequence to this type of devotion where people in major sports are being very prominent about their faith. And we see it happening as well, as I mentioned, in the Muslim faith. Some very, athletes for a while, again, Baker has a fascinating chapter on this as well in the book, Playing with God. And one other basketball player from the 90s, Hakeem Olajuwon, very prominent, 2-time finals champion with the Houston Rockets, studied the Quran every day. At home, at the mosque, on the road, he would read it in airplanes, his hotel room, before games, after games, soaking up the faith and learning new meanings each time I turned a page. I didn't dabble in religion, I gave myself over to it. Right? So this is a man, Hakeem Olajuwon, very smooth on the basketball court. Does anybody here play basketball? I make a few basketball references. Remember the Dream Shake? Hakeem the Dream, you know LeBron James, everybody knows LeBron. When he was working on his down low game, he studied with Hakeem Olajuwon to work on some of his moves like down low, right? So he could become a more complete player. But he gave himself over to religion, I would argue, the same way he gave himself over to the sport. He has a great book called Living the Dream, My Life and Basketball, with Peter Nobler back in '96. Actually won back-to-back championships, he wrote that book. But again, very devout Muslim, who his faith and sports were interchangeable. Muhammad Ali, many of you know him, right? Who here knows Muhammad Ali? Right? Cassius Clay changed his name, another athlete changed his name because his faith is very, very important to him. And we see him. And another boxer, Mike Tyson. You may know Mike Tyson more so in movies or comedies or sketches about him, but probably before most of you were born in this room, he was the baddest man on the planet, right? Remember Michael Jordan? Mike Tyson, Iron Mike, you heard the legend, right? From here at Brooklyn again. And this is something that I think is very interesting too. After someone, we see this in society too, right? We talk about the importance of putting your faith out whenever a camera might be in front of you, right? Talking about how faith is important to me. Mike Tyson had an experience where he was in prison, right? And he came out and he was saying how he was a changed man. And I show this clip. I'm going to show you a clip of some of the things that he said after the heat of the battle.
Standing by with Jim Gray. Jim? Yeah. Okay, thank you, Steve. Mike, was that your shortest fight ever?
I've been witnessing only one God, and Muhammad's blessings and peace be upon him as his prophet. I dedicate this fight to my brother, Darvon, who died. I'll be here to see you. I love you with all my heart. All praise be to my children. I love you. God, man, what?
Is this your shortest fight ever? Any time, amateur, professional ever?
Assalamu alaikum, Maida. I don't know, man. Yeah, Lennox Lewis, Lennox, I'm coming for you.
Is it frustrating to train like you did and then have this in 7 or 8 seconds?
For this fight, I only trained probably 2 weeks or 3 weeks for this fight. I had to bury my best friend, and I dedicated this fight. I wasn't going to fight. I dedicated this fight to him. I was going to rip his heart out. I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal, vicious, most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lennox is a conqueror. No, I'm Alexander. He's no Alexander. I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody beat me. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack 50. There's no one like me. I'm from NASCAR. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable. And I'm just ferocious. I want your heart. I want to eat your children. Praise be to Allah.
You're saying now, Mike, the fight?
It's pretty powerful, right? I want his heart, I want to eat his children, praise be Allah. What does that say, right? That's pretty powerful imagery. I think it talks, there's a few things I want to mention about this. Any comment about that? Sorry about the poor quality. So that again is in the 90s again when Mike Tyson was on his way to fight Lennox Lewis. And I think he was annoyed at Jim Gray. Jim Gray was a reporter who was there and trying to really like agitate him, wanted him to answer the question, is this your shortest fight ever? Are you ready for Lennox Lewis? You ready to take him on? And again, I think it's an example of an athlete, a premier athlete, using, that was one of those pay-per-view fights. Most of you now probably watch more UFC fights, right? You see the McGregor and the, who's the other guy? Khabib, right. So that was a huge fight. So if you think of like the magnitude of that, that's what like the early 90s was with boxing, and even before that with Muhammad Ali. Every fight Muhammad Ali had, people would flock to the thing to see it. So using that pedestal as a way to promote someone's belief is huge. Right? That's where we see sports having that pulpit to have religion being expressed, right? And I think a few things that happen there, we'll get to later on, but boxing is a very violent sport, obviously, right? You're trying to knock out someone else. You're just finished with the fight. There's a lot of fans, there's a lot of things. There's reporters interface. He's trying to talk about how he reconciles the sport he plays, right? The competition he needs to win to gear himself up, but also reconciling that with his faith, right? He had this conversion experience and he was talking about it, and he wants to promote it, but then we see some consistencies there, right? Islam is a peaceful religion. What does Mike Tyson say he wants to do to Lennox Lewis? He wants to eat his, I want to eat his children, praise be Allah, right? So Mike Tyson's a complicated character, so it's not all about Mike, but.
He literally means that.
Right.
Like, he's not gonna actually do that. I think he means it violently. I think when you say
Right.
like something about someone's heart, you
Right.
want like something about their character.
Okay, good. So heart does speak a lot to character. Good point. He does want to do something to him, me, right? Like he's not trying to be peace, but he does talk about his faith, and he does express it. More recently, some of you may have even seen this. There's another example of using the stage of national television or being streamed after a big playoff game in the NFL to talk about someone's faith. And this, I think, is well, I'll let the video play.
What is the best play of your career? 10 seconds, starting 10. Walk us through what happened after that.
I ran around, my QB gave me a great throw. God took care of the rest. It wasn't play. A guy ran into another guy. I give all the glory to God. I give him the praise on this great Sunday.
What was going through your mind? Were you looking at the jumbotron? You started to run out the tunnel. Explain everything that was going on once you crossed the end zone.
I still don't know what just happened. I really don't.
Yes.
All I can say is, give it to God. Because without him, nothing is possible, and I wouldn't be here, so damn, that feel good.
Can you tell us how down and out this Vikings team felt, thinking that the Saints had just gone up and you guys needed something miraculous to happen?
Since I first got here, I never stopped working. Today was when all the work paid off, and God put me in a position, and I just try to take advantage of my opportunity.
Powerful, right? So that's so two examples there were Stephon Diggs, right? Do you remember that play? Any Vikings fans, playoff fans, remember watching that? That experience he had, right? That was what I was saying earlier in the presentation, right? Some experiences we have, we can't explain, right? They seem miraculous to him, right? So he's in the moment, he's in this experience. She's trying to say, the reporter's trying to say, like, to frame this, and all he can think about is giving the glory to God, how God touched him, how God, he feels God's presence, right? I remember watching that, and that's the first thing I thought of, like, wow, that there's something going on there, right? This activity that he's engaging in is giving him some sort of emotional, spiritual comfort that he calls God, right? And he didn't name necessarily Christianity or Islam or Judaism, he just mentioned God, right? Giving glory to God. So that transitions us, I think, to, again, getting back to basketball, I think there's some, Phil Jackson, many of you know Phil Jackson, right? Coach of the Lakers, previously coached the Bulls, he messed up the Knicks a little bit. Knicks fans here, he wasn't great as a general manager here or president, whatever his position was. But he has written a few things on spirituality in sports, specifically in sacred hoops, right? He would say, like life, basketball is messy and unpredictable. It has its way with you. No matter how hard you try to control it, the trick is to experience each moment with a clear mind and open heart. When you do that, the game and life will take care of itself. That's when I come alive, on the basketball court. As the game unfolds, time slows down, and I experience the blissful feeling of being totally engaged in the action. And I would argue that's what Stephon Diggs was feeling. Totally engaged in the action. One moment I may crack a joke, or the next cast a woeful look at a ref. That's Phil talking about being on the sidelines as a coach. But all the while I'm thinking, how many timeouts do we have left? Who needs to get going out there on the court? What's my guys up front on the bench? My mind is completely focused on the goal, but with a sense of openness and joy. And I think that also translates to Hakeem Olajuwon's experiences of being immersed in this experience is taking the emotion as a spiritual act in a way. Dr. George Sheehan, in his seminal work, Running and Being, The Total Experience, was published in 1978. Again, 2013, a new edition.